Rings of Power is going to have a little something for everyone. And what I mean is, for the people that are going to hate watch it, there's a lot of dialogue and silly moments that are going to be really easy to make fun of. They're going to have a field day. And for the people who just love anything Middle-earth related, there's a lot of things to love. If you're super optimistic and you've loved everything you saw in the trailers leading up to this, you'll probably love it. For the casual enjoyer of fantasy, such as myself, my biggest question is the story good? Does this have characters that will win me over and make me want to root for them? Can I get emotionally invested? Can I escape into this fantasy world? So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. The first half will be spoiler free. The show comes out probably within an hour after I upload this video. So the second half will have spoilers for the first 2 episodes and the first 2 episodes only. After I watched the first 2 episodes, I think my overall feeling is that this felt a lot like the first 2 hours of an 8-hour film. It's just too early to tell if it's going to be good or great or bad or terrible. There was some moments that I feel like it missed on. There was some moments I feel like that were done pretty well. It's slowly building up. There were times when I was watching this where I kind of had to remind myself that this is Middle-earth. I had to tell my brain, this is Middle-earth, and this is, where Sam and Frodo and Gandalf and all eventually will traverse and make the Fellowship and all that. It just, at times, didn't feel like it. And to some degree, I kind of expected that. I knew it's going to take a while to acclimate myself to how this Middle-earth is going to be portrayed. And my brother said the same thing as soon as we watched the first 2 episodes. He was like, I kind of had to remind myself, this is Middle-earth. It's going to sound like this is going to be a really negative review. It's not. At this point, I have enough questions and I'm curious enough to where I want to go forward and see what happens next. I'm hooked. I feel like episode 2 won me over. Episode 1 is just introducing a lot of characters, and I feel like they had a really good chance to make Galadriel really easy to root for. It shows in the trailer. So this isn't really a spoiler. Her brother dies and she wants to avenge him. Now when we see it in the show, it's sort of just a montage. A slight spoiler, I guess, for the beginning of the first episode, but they quickly show Galadriel as a small child talking to her older brother, and then it shows him at war. Then it shows her, walking up to his dead body, and she's sad about it, but it happens so quick. You don't have a chance to really connect or feel sad or anything. It's just kind of like, well, that happened, and now she's mean. Anytime you're going to do a story arc involving revenge, you really got to make the audience care and be passionate about why this character wants revenge. With John Wick, these people kill his dog. And so you're like, oh man, I hope John Wick gets them. I hope he gets all of them immediately. Yes, let's go. And for a lot of other, old action movies where revenge is the primary motivation, normally you'll have some action hero and his whole family gets murdered. Or, something terrible happens. He gets tortured. The first part of the movie is digging into that character's why, that character's reason for pushing forward, and I need revenge, and you get it. For this, it's here's a little montage. Okay, her brother died. Now she's out for revenge, and it's just, I feel like it didn't land, for me at least. I think Morfydd Clark, I think she did a great job as an actress, working with what she has. They put her in a position where it's really hard to root for Galadriel at first. She's just leading her men, and they're all pissed off, and they're like, we already went too far, and they don't seem to like her very much, and you can kind of see where they're coming from. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but I feel like that was botched a bit. I would say, on the other hand, Arondir had a great character introduction. He comes across as compassionate, even towards people who hate him, but he also comes across kind of like a badass. I mean, he's definitely the Legolas of this story. And it's going to be impossible not to compare a lot of these characters to characters in the Fellowship of the Ring. It's just inevitable. But he comes across like a total badass. He's a warrior. He's obviously a better fighter than a lot of people that in this town he's looking over. I would say they convince you that he's good at what he does, and everybody around him hates him, but he's a good guy. There's Elrond. It was really hard to tell myself that this is the same Elrond who is Arwen's father and we see in Lord of the Rings. This Elrond is such a chill guy. He has a great personality. He's kind of charming. He's just He's a cool, happy dude. He can put up with a Galadriel. Galadriel's sort of furious at everything, and he's unbothered. I will really like Elrond's story, and when he's on screen, he seems so different from the Elrond we see in Lord of the Rings. I'm just gonna have to get over that, but he's entertaining, at least. When they use practical effects, like there's one orc that looks just really cool, and they kind of lean into horror in one scene, and I think it works. But there's other moments, obviously the ice troll that you see in the trailers is completely CGI. We don't have any ice trolls just walking around on Earth, so they had to do CGI, and it looks like CGI. Anytime we cut over to Nori, that's probably the slowest part of the story, and Nori kind of reminds me of a mix between Pippin and Sam. Like, the mischief of Pippin, but she has a heart of gold like Sam. But she always is crying, it seems like a lot. She's really good at it. Like, the actress who plays Nori, does the watery eyes thing great. She nails it, but it's like every other scene, it seems like there's just tears in her eyes for every little thing. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it loses impact when you overuse it. But maybe that's just me. My favorite part of the first 2 episodes had to be the interaction between Elrond and Prince Durin. Now, I'm not saying what happens, but these characters interact, and it's great the whole time. Anytime they're around each other, and then you throw in Disa, and that's just a good time. Like, smile, that's probably the time I was smiling the most as I was watching this. They're entertaining, it's great, love it, I'd love to see more of that. The pace is pretty slow, but Lord of the Rings has never been known to have a fast pace. It's not going to be an action-packed thrill ride, and 0 people were expecting it to be that, right? I mean, come on. So again, it brings me back to, man, this just feels like the beginning of a really long movie. I have questions, I want to see where it's going, and for now I'm hooked. Like, I have enough questions. You could see all of the characters and their different areas. Slowly, the wheels are turning, and it feels like things are about to get a lot more exciting. And there was a little bit of action, and there were some moments where, it's clearly a magical moment, and you can kind of get lost in it a little bit. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. The first 2 episodes, maybe episode 1 would be a 7, episode 2 would be like a 7.5, because episode 2 is definitely better. It definitely feels like the show could get better and better as it goes on. Hopefully it does. It could definitely just nosedive after this. Totally a possibility. Like, I feel like they missed on some things, which is kind of an indication of like, okay, where is the writing at? Is the writing good? And they're clearly building towards something, but I feel like there was just a few missteps. But right now, I'm gonna go into spoilers. So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. Comes out probably within an hour after I upload this, and then come back. Or maybe you just don't care about spoilers. Some people don't. I don't know. Do whatever you want to do. And I would say for spoilers, honestly, there's nothing really shocking that happens in the first 2 episodes. So even if you listen to the spoilers, I feel like you're not going to be spoiled that much. There's no big twist in the first 2 episodes. It's just a lot of, hey, here's the character, here's another character. This is where they are. So we'll start off with Galadriel. Galadriel, again, she seemed hard to root for. It seemed like all the men that she was leading, none of them liked her. And it felt like she wasn't a good leader. It just seems like the chemistry's off. Like, she's pushing them to do things that they're clearly not supposed to do. They're going against orders, and it's like they hike up this entire icy mountain. And I thought it was funny. The elf under her command is like, we went too far, we have to go back. We can't just keep pushing forward. He waited until they climbed the entire mountain to say that. Like, man, why not just say that when you're at the bottom? And she didn't listen anyways, but I just thought that was funny. And then they all fight the ice troll, and they all suck, I guess. They're just not good at combat, and Galadriel's the only one. She's the badass, warrior princess. I don't know if she's a princess, but she's the only badass warrior out of all these people she brought. And it's like, what are they even good for? Maybe she should have just ventured off without them. When they all give up and are like, nope, that's enough for us. We're checking out. This is beyond our skill. And I don't blame them, because if she didn't intervene, they would have definitely got killed by a cave troll. It would have scraped all of them. They would have lost. I don't blame them. They were just like, nope, not for me. They're like, we straight up got our asses kicked. No, not for us. We're going home. So why'd she even bring them? How come they suck and she's way better? I don't know. I think they showed this part in the trailer, but where she jumps and it's clearly two wires launching her up in the air. That looked a little silly, but when she wasn't flying through the air, it looked really cool. When she was standing on the ground, she's flipping her sword all around. Okay, she looks like a badass. Cool, got it. I feel like Galadriel, she starts to win you over once she's decided not to go to the Grey Havens, when she dives back in the water and we see a giant sea monster, which I thought was pretty cool. It's this massive beast that swims under their boat. Her and Halbrand's story will probably be interesting. I'm really curious to see where that goes. I assume they go to Numenor. Elrond is the most chill elf. So it's hilarious to think that he goes from that to Elrond of Lord of the Rings. But whatever. Again, I'm just going to ignore that and just appreciate that Elrond is pretty entertaining, especially him and Prince Durin. I love the bromance between him and Prince Durin. It's like they were friends, and then Elrond comes back to be like, he's going to welcome me with open arms. We're like this. And then he comes back, and Prince Durin is pissed because Elrond has been away for decades. And to an elf, that's not much time. But to a dwarf, that is a lot of time. He's salty. They compete in this competition, and Elrond loses, and Prince Durin is walking him back to the entrance of the cave, and then then it comes out. He's like, you missed my wedding, the birth of both my children. I thought you were a friend. And Elrond realizes his mistake, and he's just like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And then, so he's like, oh, let me apologize. Then he's like, oh, let me apologize to your wife and, say congratulations. And then you could see Prince Durin, he's mad, but he also misses his friend. And I feel like this is the part that had the most depth out of anything in the first two episodes. So that whole scene where they're at dinner and there's subtext. There's tension boiling under the surface. That's the only time I feel like in the first two episodes where this happened, and I don't know if it was just the actors crushing it or the writers writing, and I don't know. That was the best part. Had the best writing, I guess. It was funny, but it was also emotional. That part was just great. Everything about that, I want to see more of that story. I want to see where it goes. Cool. Arondir and Bronwyn, he seems really cool. Like I believe he's a total badass. He's clearly skilled. He just drops down in a hole and is going to go fight some creatures. Now, in the show, the last time we see him, a bunch of arms come out, just like in the trailer, grab him, pull him away. We know he's not dead. Like, you can go on IMDb and see he's in all 8 episodes. I think Lord of the Rings has always sort of done fake out deaths. Whatever. Not a big deal. But his story up until that point, the people in the town he's watching over clearly hate him. Just for being an elf. They don't like him. One teenager tries to fight him and, calls him old pointy ears and is like walking up to him all brave. And then, Arondir, he's taking it pretty well. He's not losing his cool or anything. And then the boy starts arguing with the bartender, who then throws a punch, and Arondir catches it, saves the boy, but also shows how ridiculously fast he is. Like, he's much faster than humans. He's like, don't even try. If you tried to fight me, it wouldn't work out. But then he doesn't beat up the teenager, because then we'd be like, damn, as much as the townsfolk, are just being mean to him, he picks up the cup that the kid drops, or gets punched out of his hand or whatever. He picks up the cup that the young man drops, and he hands it back to him. And, he's trying to be nice to these people, even though they hate his guts. And anytime you see a character do that, it's really easy to root for them. And then, his thing with Bronwyn is a little weird. He's been watching over this town for 79 years. And so that means he's seen Bronwyn when she was a baby, to a child, to a teenager, to an adult. And it's like he's just watched her grow up, and then at some point he was really attracted to her. And he still hasn't made a move or anything, But I don't know, something about that, it's a little weird. There's a part where an entire town gets wiped out, and Bronwyn and Arondir kind of come across it, and they walk and they see it, and they go, huh. And then it just cuts to another storyline for a while, and then eventually we come back, and then they're like, oh, we got to dig around a bit. But like, man, I feel like that was such a good opportunity to feel sad, like to make your audience feel and care about things and be emotional. Like there's an entire town where all the people were probably slaughtered, disappeared. I know they're trying to keep up some mystery, but I feel like they should have spent a little more time there and really dug into that feeling. Like really, what did they feel when they come across this town of people who probably got murdered, all the houses are burned down, something bad happened. Like just give me a little more time there. The pace is already slow, but if we're gonna spend a lot of time watching the Harfoots pick berries, we could spend a little bit of time watching Arondir and Bronwyn really explore this town that was just decimated, right? I think so. Oh, and the thing with Nori, again, my least favorite storyline so far, she finds presumably a wizard, I guess. I don't know if that's supposed to be a young Gandalf or just a young wizard of some kind. I'm guessing wizard because it seems like they have a parallel figure for every member of the Fellowship. So I feel like that's the Gandalf parallel. But man, a lot of her story is her just like doing something mischievous and then having teary eyes. And then like she goes, her and her friend, they find the man who fell from the sky, and she's like, oh, we got to take care of him. And then her and her friend, they have some sort of comedy. I don't know, I didn't find it very funny. I was just like, oh, this is supposed to be funny. Just hasn't really got me yet, I guess. Her friend just says no to everything, and that's sort of a running joke. Maybe that'll start to be funny eventually. Maybe. I don't. Maybe I just got to see more. But man, she's just taking care of this guy, and he can't really speak, and they're trying to communicate to each other, and it's kind of just boring. And I'm waiting for like, okay, I know cool stuff's gonna happen. At some point, he makes a constellation with fireflies, and that's pretty cool. And then they all die and fall. Hopefully, that storyline gets more interesting. I want to know, how that's gonna develop and how all these characters really are gonna come together. I feel like there's been enough setting up to where I'm really curious to see them come together. Do we get a fellowship of some kind? Do they all interact? Will they all come together in season 1? I don't know. I hope so. If they don't, doesn't mean for sure it's going to be bad or anything, but I hope they do. I hope they come together. But yeah, I don't know. This is just me sort of ranting. It's so hard to tell, like, is this going to be a great thing? Is this going to be a great 8 hours of entertainment? And I feel like, again, it's so early. It could be. There's some things it does really well, and there's some things, where I feel like it missed, but again, it's early. It could go either way. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know if this is going to be, this is going to be the greatest thing. I don't know. Is that bad to say in a review? Maybe, but I'm just being honest. Well, if you enjoy fantasy, I will be covering this and The House of Dragon. Also, I'm currently reading Stormlight, so I'm making a bunch of content for that. If you're interested in any of those things, please subscribe, like. Thank you for your time, and until next time, later.